In 1887, a magnificent new building was opened at the corner of St. Charles and Peters Avenue. Comprising an entire block of uptown New Orleans, the building had 3 floors built in a U shape with an invisible line running down the interior courtyard to divide the boy and girl residents. While the size of the new building and the enthusiasm and pride that it generated spoke to the timeless efforts and generosity of New Orleanians and others who made this building possible, the real news was the numbers of Jewish youth whose needs made this new structure necessary. In addition to the initial goals of providing a roof for a widow and her orphans, there was a growing realization that children without fathers or mothers needed the finest citizenship skills, health care, education, and vocational training possible to rise above their poverty. In-kind donations began to arrive at this new structure from all across New Orleans. Not only came the basket of live chickens from local stores and rolls of dressmaking materials, books were also donated for the home's library, and increasingly individual citizens visited the home. They hosted individual children in their private homes and sponsored or chaperoned gatherings of children. Special celebrations, such as this Jewish holiday of Sukkot observance, brought in various visitors from New Orleans. Although the home possessed a fine chapel, gradually the children began to receive Jewish education and attend services at 3 nearby congregations currently known as Temple Sinai, Torah Synagogue, and Gates of Prayer Congregation. In this photo, taken 4 decades later in 1930, 10 of the 25 confirmands of Gates of Prayer Congregation were residents of the former Jewish Children's Home. With the creation of an extraordinary building for the motherless and fatherless Jewish children of the South, and the growing interest of New Orleans' finest citizenry in the welfare of these residents, it was perhaps logical that the next focus of need would be on the education of these Jewish youth. The children of the home, all 140 of them, were expected to attend the local public schools, except for kindergarten, which generally held 20 to 30 students. In addition, there was Jewish education consisting of Hebrew and biblical history, which took place in at least one special room of the home. In 1889, the Reverend I.L. Leucht, first vice president, reported to the board,
"Our girls, when discharged from the home, are not well fitted for the practical side of life. Too much attention was paid to school advancement and not sufficient scope allowed to home education. To obviate this, the board of directors ordered that in the future, every girl above the age of 14 must be placed under the supervision of the matron for the purpose of performing housework, such as sewing, cooking, washing, etc., thus preparing our girls to step into any household as useful helps, thereby earning a living by their own might."
But the vice president, Reverend Leucht, whose career led to pulpits in both Torah Synagogue and Temple Sinai congregations, was not finished in his report on education.
"I am strongly of the opinion that, in the near future, something must be done enabling our boys to enter a useful career as mechanics, and this can only be achieved by an industrial school wherein the dormant faculties of our boys may be developed and a love of trade may be instilled.
The school that Reverend Leucht envisioned in 1889, which would eventually be known as the Isidore Newman Manual Training School, was still 15 years from fruition. However, the home itself created its own workshop to teach various trades, as portrayed in this 1890s photo of a Sloyd room. By the 1890s, the board reported that girls had been scientifically taught the art of cooking. Other girls were being specifically trained as housekeepers, while others, who trained at the home as kindergarten teachers, had found paying employment. In 1897, the National Farm School at Douglastown, Pennsylvania, offered 2 scholarships to boys from the home. By 1902, it was reported that former home residents Harry Rich and Solomon Pizer graduated with the highest honors, and that Harry Rich was hired by Mr. Wilson, the Secretary of Agriculture of the United States, at a salary of $480 per year, and was soon raised to $840 per year in recognition of his excellent work. By the close of the century, the home had created its first brass band, and members of that band and succeeding bands left the home and led successful careers as musicians in New Orleans. At the same time, other young men were leaving the home as apprentices at ages as young as 14 to work in various trades and businesses. The Burka family of New Orleans had 8 ancestors in the Jewish orphans' home at the beginning of the 20th century. Morris Burka Jr., age 84, had a father, a mother, 2 aunts, 2 uncles, and 2 first cousins living at the Jewish orphans' home in the early 1900s. Morris's father, Morris Burka Sr., and his father's brother, Louis, left the home at ages 15 and 13 to apprentice at local businesses. Later, they returned to the orphans' home to find their wives, Lena Tobias and Mary Weiss. Morris Burka Jr. possesses 2 letters, the apprenticeship papers of his father, Morris Burka Sr., and the apprenticeship papers of his father's brother, Louis Burka.
In reference to the boy Morris Burka, whom I called to see last week during your absence from the city, to take him into my office and bring him up and try to make a good businessman of him. I beg to say that I will agree to take this boy and board and clothe him at my brother's residence, 5222 Britannia Street, and in addition to this, I will pay him $2.50 a week for a beginning until such time that I feel he should be advanced by giving him more pay. If this be satisfactory and agreeable to you, I take charge of the boy as soon as you say so, and I wish to say further that he will be taken and domiciled in my brother's house, and his sleeping apartments will be in the same room as my brother's son, who is about the same age as this boy. Hoping a favorable reply, I am yours very truly, M. Feitel. Dear sirs, I, the undersigned, do hereby make my application for a young boy named Master Louis Burka, an inmate of your worthy institution, to work in my drugstore at a salary of $2 per week, and to learn the pharmacy profession. He will have a good home with me, and I promise to clothe and board him, and if he is capable to learn the drug business, I will let him attend one of the schools of pharmacy now being conducted in the city. Hoping this meets with your approval, I am yours, High Welch, W-E-L-S-C-H, pharmacist. My father's first job, as I was told, was with the Pinkerton Detective Agency, and he was sent to Atlanta, Georgia to work on the Leo Frank case. Mr. Frank was a Jew accused of rape and murder, and it was a very famous case, and Georgia at that time was fairly anti-Semitic. I don't remember the outcome of the case, but I know Mr. Frank was lynched, and probably wrongfully so.